Welcome to the studio. So here it is, my creative space, my home away from home, at home, my man cave, my laboratory of sound. In creating this particular studio, I spent a lot of time devoted to the design of it. This studio design evolved through many different iterations of this schematic, and this ended up being my master signal flow design, so that not only could I have everything laid out in front of me, but if I ever need to pack this down and rebuild it again, the whole design is there for reference. So I'd always been working in the box to make sound as organic as possible, and after I started playing with machines, with synthesizers and drum machines and outboard effects, I realized that I could infuse that humanness in a way deeper way across a whole plethora of instruments. And with the power of MIDI sequencing and MIDI machine control via the world of Electron, I realized that I could actually make an entire symphony which was similar to the way I would lay out my Logic sessions, except instead of recording everything one instrument at a time or one sampler at a time, I could create entire jams based on MIDI sequences and loops, and then play those jams from start to finish, record them down, and make songs out of them. Anyway, the rig, it's just kind of like having a band. It's almost like composing in a way where the orchestra is all the machines, and then you're using the sequencer to tell the orchestra what to play. So that's kind of where I'm at with this studio, and let me take you on a little journey of what's going on in here. So the room itself is pretty square, and it's actually only because of the high roof in here and taking out the doors on the wardrobes at the back that really sort of opened it up and gave it a more dynamic sound overall. I've put a lot of treatment, big bass traps in the corners, a lot of stuff floating up on the roof, a little bit of foam here and there. And overall, it's one of the best sounding rooms that I've ever produced in. So painting the room and tricking it out with the materials on the bass traps and just getting an overall aesthetic for the room. I feel it's really important when you make a creative space, you want to step into a womb of inspiration. So when I come in here, the art on the walls, a little bit of art, the little trinkets and treasures around, the plant, all of these things add to this aesthetic of just this cozy space where I feel calm and connected to what I'm doing. Over here to the left of my computer workstation, I've got a little instrument collection. You know, it's important if you're going to make organic music to get your hands on some acoustic things. I've got a nice collection of shakers and wooden sticks and just things that have really nice organic textures. Sometimes there'll be some stones in here that I grab off the land because I love recording stones. Got a couple of flutes and classical guitar, some drums, and of course some didgeridoos. The way I've laid the room out with these two different zones, the computer zone and the music creation zone, I've done my best to separate the two hemispheres of the brain, if you will. When I'm sitting down in front of the computer, my body's not so active and I'm more in my head. I'm using the mouse, I'm looking at the screen and all the details, and it's definitely a more mental world. And when I'm on the rig making the music, I'm standing up, I'm in my body, I'm dancing around, and I'm very much in the music creation process. Not so much in my head, more in the body and feeling the flow of the music. I have a collection of synthesizers that has grown over the last 4 years to pretty much capture everything I need in my sound. Different flavors, different textures, different expressions of sound, different styles of synthesis. So adding processing with the patch bay, I can patch in the 500 series racks where there's a mixture of compressors, limiters, there's some distortion, saturation models, there's a collection of preamps that have their own flavors to them, and some of them sound really nice when they're driven. And there's a couple of Pultec style EQs there as well. I also have a pair of Golden Age LA2A style compressors, they're tube compressors, and an older Alesis 3630, which is like pretty budget but classic in its own right. And then I have the Teglia Cream, which is sort of an EQ and bus compressor in a box, and it sounds great. So basically I can patch processing into an instrument before it gets to the mixer, like I mentioned. The audio interfaces I use are Lynx and Universal Audio. I also have a couple of preamps that are connected to the Universal Audio interfaces via ADAT. They take the signal from all the effects, pedals and effects units. Mostly reverbs and delays, and then a few other special pedals like the Auto Bit, the Mood, the Microcosm, the Plasdac, the kind of glitch and texturizer pedals. I have this wonderful Electron analog heat. I also have this Zulu tape emulator, which has tape machine components in it and gives that very subtle but very pleasing tape saturation. So I have a very broad option of possibilities for signal routing with the studio. That's one of the main things that I wanted to achieve when setting it up. Simplicity in the way that everything flows from idea, but also with the opportunity for maximum experimentation. Moving now to my computer desk, we have on the right the SSL X desk, and that's basically my summing mixer. We have, of course, the trusty MIDI controller. No studio should be without one. And down here within hand's reach is a monitor controller. My computer setup is basically just a Mac Mini from a few years ago, running Logic. What else do I need to say? Bunch of plugins, lots of soft synths. My monitoring is through Focal Trios. I've got some mix cubes for a little bit of referencing, and I've got a sub pack which is attached to my chair, which I use for a little bit of bass checking now and again. And of course, there is my plant, my beautiful plant, keeping the air fresh, keeping the vibes high. And lastly, one fascinating tidbit of information is that this studio is powered directly from the sun. That's right, this is a solar powered studio. Living the dream.